Welcome everyone.
Another episode of the Love Change podcast. Today, we will be talking about the scenario happens once and often that you think life is happening to you. That I think I've been getting sick all week last week, that I can't do what I want to do, that, yeah, I have no control. I have nothing to say, and boo hoo, little old me. um, versus that whole thing versus boundaries. So it's a pretty interesting conversations we're gonna have. The role boundaries play externally towards other people. The role boundaries can play internally towards yourself in how you experience life, how you still make your choices when there are almost zero to none, and what you do to take ownership of your own life. Keep listening if you're interested in an honest conversation. I'm going to throw the ball to Kay, the co host
Thank
of the Love Change
you.
podcast.
Yeah, the honest conversation. That's what we're all about. We really care about the messiness and the nastiness of the process of change, especially the things that we don't appreciate so much. They're the ones that we have to fight the most with. And that's where we really care to be real and authentic and talk about exactly this and not just show up all pretty and shiny.
You did
Right?
go and comb your hair though.
I did comb my hair. No, I
That's
didn't
okay.
really. I
No
washed
worries.
it. That's how far I got. But in all sense, we stream this either live every Tuesday. If not with video, you can find us on every podcast channel you use to listen to your podcast. So you can decide if you want to see us with video or without. Make sure to like, make sure to share, because we really care about reaching more people with what we're doing. And here we go, right? Let's kick it off.
Hey.
Hey.
So,
Showing my boundaries today.
first of all, what I mentioned first is like the feeling of life is happening to you. How does that rap resonate with you? My voice is gone, but
Bye.
how does this state of mind, this experience of life is happening to me? I have no control. How does that resonate with
I
you?
think it's especially interesting to look at it if there is something good happening to you. You would not be like, oh, life is happening to me. But you're like, that's exactly what I wanted. Versus when something bad is happening to you, you get fired or whatever, then you're like, God damn it, poor me. Life is happening to me. Right? So if you just look at the whatever is happening, it's the same. Something is happening, but then it's your mindset and your attitude towards that changes. Right?
Very smart.
So I think that's where we need to
Very
kick
smart.
off the conversation. Yeah, I took my 3 gray cells today, collected them to one place, and here we
So
are.
what you're saying is,
It's
if
your
something,
attitude.
yeah, something that I want happens, then life is
I'm
happening.
like,
Life is happening to me, but it's amazing.
it's exactly what I wanted. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
here we
good.
go. I'm
No,
celebrating.
no complaints.
Yeah.
So the complaints and the suffering and the pain and all the discomfort is in the moments that you feel like life is not turning out the way you would prefer.
Yeah, you change your mindset into a victim role. You're like, God damn it, didn't ask for that. Why is this happening to me? While it's just something happening, right? If you like, in the biggest Buddhistic sense, you would look at it, something is happening to you, period. You judge it in your mind. Yeah, right?
So you do, besides you being enlightened, do you experience that state of mind?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's talk
Yeah,
about
but
that.
I find that pretty interesting to like, if you cook it down, then you're like, actually, it's just something happening to me, and then I make it in my mind something that I wanted.
Okay,
So
how,
yeah.
how do you get to that point? Do you just like instantly do that? Because
No,
think
oh my
pro-
gosh. I'm like one of the most stubborn people on this planet. So of course, if something is happening that I didn't ask for, I'm like, why me? That's the first question. And there have been plenty things that happened to me. I think one of my repetitive patterns was to get someone that I would report into that I just didn't want to report into. So I would get
what? Reporting to?
report like having a manager in front of you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you don't know that wording. That's true.
Reports.
No, but if you get a manager that actually didn't ask for, and it's
Yeah.
someone that, I'm sorry, but is less smart and is less just yeah, like doesn't necessarily know as much about the meta as you do, and that
Mhm.
happens 3 times in your life, then you're like, why the fuck is that happening to me, you
Mhm.
know? And you just you start I don't know, you start blaming everyone around you.
Wow.
And I think when I look back exactly like at this particular example, I'm like, it happened because I actually was shown that I should rethink my career and what I was doing, but I was
Mm.
just stubborn enough to push further and create my own misery with that, you know? So that's also something very, very interesting. That's how I feel about it.
It's really interesting that you, by now, you're like, that was a sign for me to change my path.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a pretty big statement.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you
I know.
are confronted with something that you don't want or like, then you need to change your path.
No, I
And
wouldn't make it a general thing. I think that's also something you can only see in retrospect,
okay.
you know? But if I look at it now,
Yeah, but that's because you changed careers. If you were still in the same career, you should have been like, oh, I should have skipped those shitty
no,
managers
but how
earlier.
many times can something similar, same happen to you until you're like, God damn it, I got the fucking message. I think at some point you're also like, this whole, why is this happening to me again and again? You gotta question that too, no?
Preferably not. No.
You just keep going.
Yeah, just keep your eyes wide shut and
Yeah.
head into the sand.
Yeah,
But,
that's very
no,
much not
but
you. But I
like,
guess you had your share as well, no?
no, what I'm trying to get at is like
Tell me.
now in big retrospect, you can say I should have changed my path.
Mm-hmm.
Question for today's conversation is what role could have boundaries played in you feeling like you have ownership over your situation?
That would have definitely changed a lot, but
No, but go into that.
I didn't feel like it's, yeah, it's really difficult to describe that. I really didn't feel like I am in control.
Hmm.
So something got decided for me. So I found myself in a situation and I didn't appreciate.
Yeah, you didn't ask for it, you didn't choose for it, you didn't.
Yeah, but I was not like, a that's not okay. But I
And
was
what
like,
did you do concerning that situation? What did you do?
swallow and work harder.
Exactly, and this is
Yeah,
where the boundaries
exactly.
part of the conversation plays an important role.
Yeah.
If you're if you would be mentoring somebody now who ends
Mm-hmm.
up in the same situation as you don't know if they need to reconsider their career path. It could just be a shitty manager,
Yep.
the third one in a row.
Exactly. To teach you
So
something else.
no, but what advice would you have for yourself or anybody in that situation regarding your boundaries? Because this is what I get a lot is that we struggle with communicating our boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
First of
Yep.
all, one thing that
Defining them for
nobody
yourself.
really struggles with is knowing where the boundaries at because
Yeah.
that's the moment of resistance that you sense.
Yep.
Like if somebody says something, you're like, meh. Yeah, that is your boundary. And then you
Exactly. But then you're like, okay.
yeah, let me whatever. Let me
Exactly.
whatever.
Yeah.
Um that creates more ownership. If you're
Mm-hmm.
like, meh, yeah, I'm sorry, but I know more about this matter than you, so preferably I'm not gonna do what you're saying because
Mm-hmm.
your request is not grounded in whatever.
Yep.
All respect is due. Maybe we can collaborate. Some type of boundary communicating.
Mm-hmm.
How would you tell a person who is in that situation, or the mindset of the third time getting in touch with a poor manager? Um, what can you learn? Like, what can you teach in retrospect besides to get another job?
Yeah, also to, I think the whole spectrum of really communicating your boundaries and like drawing your line of like um let's
How?
sit down with your manager and just look at what are your core competencies, what are my core
Mm,
competences, and be like, okay, let's divide the field of work
Just
in a
based on that.
smart way. You know, if I would have taken ownership in that sense, I would have been like, hey, I'm better. I'm really just uber good with creating a good product.
Mm.
Leave me with that while you do take care of sales and markets. You know, just like really, but if I would have done that instead of grieving and being mad about it,
Mm.
I would have had a way more pleasant experience, because then I'd be
Mm.
like, hey, like I know what my core competence is. I'm
Mm.
really good with that. So let me just do that. But like it also needs a mutual trust. But I think if you
Yeah, and the
address that,
other person also must agree that
of
this
course,
is your
core
power.
competence, whatever,
Yeah.
yeah. Of course, then but I think like opening the conversation with someone and being like, hey, I think that is already powerful on its own. That is showing a big boundary of like, hey, this is what
No, no,
happens. Let's deal with it
that's
as
the
grown
whole
ups. But
thing. The topic for today is like when you feel like life is happening to you, and this was an
mhm.
external example.
Yeah.
You had to communicate your boundaries, then you would have had a more pleasant experience. Why do you not communicate your boundaries? Is because you're afraid, you think there's not enough space for it, think you want to live up to expectations.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a conversation on its own.
Hmm.
Um, but boundaries can play such an yeah, like the word itself almost has some negative annotations. I feel
Does
like,
it?
yeah, I feel like, yeah, like if somebody is like really clear about their boundaries, you're like, oh, that person, you know?
Honestly, no. For
Yeah.
me, it doesn't have anything negative. I find that I have my respect for that person really grows
Yeah,
when
but
you
I
do
think
that with
like,
me and you're like, hey, I need me time,
I
I need
know,
this,
I know,
like
I
don't,
know, like,
like especially in the beginning, don't help me with this.
but still, it's like
Like,
the
okay,
opposite of flexibility, boundaries. Like
is
if
it?
somebody's chill and laid back and flexible, maybe they're like not so anal about their boundaries. They're like, this is my boundary, but you can walk around it. But some people are like, these are
Yeah,
my boundaries.
of
Ah.
course you can go like into all extremes. You
So
can be like super chill, laissez-faire, whatever, or you
I
can be
think
like bah.
I think that's one of the reasons why we don't communicate our boundaries because we don't know how to, and we swallow it until the point like we're done with it, and then we
Mm.
start communicating our boundaries. Like I recognize that myself.
I think we also just sometimes are too
I
nice.
yeah, no, me, yeah, also being, I don't know. I think it's also like
Well, how will
there
that
is
come across?
some discomfort in saying, "Hey, this right here, I cannot get
I don't
jiggy."
like.
Yeah,
Cannot.
I cannot get jiggy with it,
Doesn't
and
work for me.
preferably because the chances of you saying that and the other person being like, "Don't be such a pussy."
How many times did I get pissed in the beginning also? Like, okay, there's also one side how you communicate your boundaries.
Amazing like me.
Absolutely. And then how it lands with someone. But how many times did I get like super, like really rolled over my feet? I
Yeah,
was like, okay, wow, you could have said that a bit nicer. Like just a sprinkle nicer. Yeah, honestly, you know? So I.
amazing like me. Like I said, I am
Absolutely.
the king of boundary
Yeah,
communication
but
in
my
a nice tone
respect,
of voice.
my respect for you
I think,
grows.
yeah, like it is. This is the part where it gets interesting when we start talking about boundaries internally,
Yeah,
because everybody knows externally. Um, if you don't communicate your boundaries, you're gonna get tired of people.
absolutely.
You notice it in friendships, you notice it in family relationships, you know, notice it in romantic relationships,
Yeah.
any type of interaction you have professionally, personally,
In the like in every sense.
and the
Going out and someone, I don't know, cuts you off in traffic. And you're just like, okay. And if you feel this stab in your chest, it's gonna stay. It's like,
mm,
you know, that's where it starts.
yeah, and that person in traffic you don't have to see again.
Yeah.
So not saying it's a good or bad example of a nice moment to practice throwing your boundaries out there. But that person you're never gonna see again, so you can just flip him the bird and be like, "Hey, you asshole, you pulled me off."
Yeah, but how do you
That's
keep your account clean in that sense?
yeah, but
I find that
besides
really
keeping the
interesting.
account clean, I think It's way more difficult if you're dealing with people you have multiple interactions with. For
Yeah.
instance, I like to put my feet on your table or on any table, not your table per se.
Mhm.
But whenever I come to
Don't have
your
a
house,
table.
whenever I come to
Our
your
table.
house,
Sorry.
I put my feet on your table,
Yeah.
and it annoys the hell out of you because you eat at that table and
Yeah.
you're like, you care about hygiene, you look at my feet and they're nasty and they're gross.
Yeah.
But we care about each other, we like to stay in touch with each other, etc.
Yeah.
You very friendly tell me, hey, please don't put your feet on the table. I
Mhm.
don't like that. I'm like, oh, seriously? Look, my feet. It's just my feet. It's just like any other part of me. Here I am not respecting your
Yeah.
boundaries. How do you deal with that? Like, it's normal to get pissed off. Or you tell me, I say yes, of course, no problem. And then next time, boom, my feet are on your table. And next time, boom, my feet are on the table. Like, these repetitive boundary communication things
Mhm.
are like one of the biggest reasons, I guess, that
Mhm.
people stop interacting with each other.
Mhm.
Be like, that person
They
is
go
like,
silent. They
yeah, that
really go
person is
silent.
just like that, and I don't invite them for birthday parties anymore because they put the feet on the table.
Mhm. Yep.
For me, I think that's one side of it. That's a journey on its own, and it's a different layers. One with dealing with family, then dealing with your manager, then dealing with your friends. I think the reason why we get along with friends so well, me, my friends, we're pretty chill about our boundaries. You know, that's one thing you see with really genuine friendships.
Yeah.
Everybody's like messed with and joked around and like etc. But you do respect each other's boundaries.
I think you also learn, like, you know that person well,
Mm,
so you know their boundaries.
don't do that. Don't do this. Or you can try
Exactly.
this. Don't
So,
overpress it.
like, subconsciously, you would not put your feet on the table
Mm,
because you know they don't like it.
exactly. But
You know.
for me, like that's why you don't have the feeling that life is happening to you when you're hanging out with your
Hmm.
friends because they create an environment where
Yeah.
your boundaries are respected and you don't have to be uncomfortable about communicating it.
Yeah.
You at work were uncomfortable about communicating
Yeah.
your boundaries.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Because also the whole environment was made in a sense to be like, okay, okay,
that's
don't
hierarchy.
speak up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hierarchy doesn't
Not
allow
necessarily
for
hierarchy, really the culture
also.
of, like, if you get a new manager, if your responsibility changes and it's less and actually you're unhappy, you just move on. You're like, you're very American, of like, super, okay, great,
Yeah,
super, yeah,
just
I love
swallow
it,
it.
I
Yeah,
love it,
yeah, just
yeah, oh
swallow
my
it.
gosh, my responsibility just got
Yeah, also
cut
I
in
heard
half.
from American clients that like I don't know, something happens that like you cannot change.
Mm-hmm.
So you just don't even talk about it,
Yeah,
don't express
yeah.
anything. It's just like that's the way it is, and I hate you silently.
But I keep smiling.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna
Yep,
talk to you for a week. If I don't have to deal
absolutely.
with you, I don't have to deal with you because I'm
Hmm.
angry with you actually. But I'm not gonna talk about that
It's
because
a very
you can't
complex
change it. I
culture.
can't change it. It's corporate
Yeah. You also, you, in some sense, when we started the conversation, I was like, you also gotta pick your battles.
for
Where
sure.
you really, like, where
For
you
sure.
put your foot down of saying, like, hey,
Mm.
this is not okay and this is. If you have many things to deal with that are changing and you're not happy with them,
Mm.
if you start fighting all of them, you're gonna get exhausted pretty quickly. So you really gotta be like, okay, this is really irking me as fuck. I really
Mm.
gotta put my foot down. And things like, oh, even if I'm not gonna change it because that is just set,
Mm.
well, then just live with it.
Well
Otherwise,
said.
leave.
Well said. Well said.
So I think that's also an important one to look at.
Yeah, and then I'm curious about what you think about the boundaries you have internally with yourself.
Explain that for me.
Yeah, for me, if I look at boundaries internally, it's really the relationship I have with my inner critic and all the negative voices in my head. If
Mm.
I don't have clear
Mm.
boundaries with those characters inside of me, then they're always adding more expectations, they're adding more comparisons, they're adding just a bunch of static to actually the truth that whatever is happening is happening.
Mm-hmm.
But they label things as bad or wrong or not enough. So, this thing that is related to the outside world, which you might experience as life is happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
um, in the outside world, you can take certain measures about communicating your boundaries
Mm-hmm.
to the outside world, but that doesn't change your experience
Mm-hmm.
internally,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And internally, if there is a voice in your head repeating over and over, look, again, another shitty manager. Look, again, this guy putting his feet on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Look, just unable to tone it down.
Mm-hmm.
I myself, my conscious self, need to step up in that circle and be like, hey guys, I've heard enough of you.
Had enough, yeah.
Basta. It's okay now. This is the situation,
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna change our expectations according to the situation
Yeah.
to shift our energy level, to not be like, oh, everything is happening to me. I didn't want this, I don't like that, etc. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
And besides acknowledging that, looking what you can do externally, it's way important to also like not look away from the pain and grief that might be related to a
Mm-hmm.
situation.
Oh my gosh, I find that super powerful.
But besides that, there's just a bunch of nagging at some point.
Yeah.
Like it's okay to be sad, it's okay to be mad, but to be discontent continuously, which a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of voices in our head do, and these are not bad voices. These are voices that help us excel. These are voices that get us ahead of the pack, and like
Yeah.
just give you an edge at certain times.
Mm-hmm.
But when you don't need them, they should also know your boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that's an example of something that you don't want happening in dealing with your internal world.
Yeah.
But also, if I look at successful clients, people are doing great financially, getting respect externally, internally, they still have a bunch of voices telling them it's never enough.
Mm-hmm.
And they're unable to communicate their boundaries internally.
Yeah.
Like, look at this. I did this month. That happened. These are the fruits of my labor. And that's it. Celebrate it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't hate it. Don't undermine it. Don't tell me it's not enough.
Yeah.
Because I know I did my best.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah.
that's the internal part.
But it also needs a lot of honesty to really, you know, like speak from that place with yourself. To be like, hey, you could beat yourself up every month that you didn't achieve XYZ. Or be like, hey, like you had a month where you felt not so great.
I stopped
Been
doing anything. I stopped
exactly.
doing
And you
anything.
could be beating yourself up every day, which
Yeah,
you for sure have done
couple
in
of
the
days. Yeah,
beginning.
when I was sick. Yeah.
But then how do you get there from beating yourself up to really like shifting this energy into healing mode in your case, or
Yeah.
productive mode, whatever, like
I think
positive.
what helps me is the same thing that also troubles me. It's like in the beginning when I was sick, I was like, oh no, I'm slipping. Time is valuable. I'm
Running.
losing time. And then when it is at the point that I'm like, hey, I got to take this stuff serious,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm able actually to shift and be like, hey, everything is aligning. I have trust. I have time. Like we can say life is short, but if you count all the days, minutes, and hours, it's a
It's
long
quite
journey.
some.
Yeah, it's a long journey. If you live every minute conscious from a conscious place, plenty of time before it's over. Okay.
I love that.
And this ability of communicating your boundaries externally or internally is very much related with how comfortable you feel doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is you saying that you diverge from the waves and the motions of the ocean in that time and point. You're like, hey, I cannot float here. I got a different rhythm. I got different boundaries. I can't do this. Tuesday is not good for me. I don't feel good right now. I said I would, but actually, I don't feel like it anymore. These simple things,
Yeah.
you have to be really grounded in the fact that you're doing the right thing for you.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we are conditioned in not doing right for ourselves, but whatever you do, you're trying to please
Look left and right.
some model of your parents or your siblings and whatnot. So this comparing
Yeah.
prevents us from, like, if I want to stretch it has to do with, yeah, being true to yourself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And we start off making trades about being true to ourselves
Mm.
till the point that it starts to hurt us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, yeah, that's how I would frame it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the way I do it is definitely being like, okay, I'm gonna bounce back from this, and I'm gonna take as much time as I need to bounce back from this. Yeah, it's a good time to refocus. Like I surrender at some point also
Mm.
into it, and
Yeah,
then I
that you
let
can
it.
really feel,
Yeah,
or
then
that I can really feel when I'm around you. Like your energy really shifts to a
yeah,
bit more of a peaceful energy
yeah.
rather than the warrior
Yeah, at the
mindset.
beginning you're fine. I think that's also like if I think of the period that you had your shitty managers,
Mm.
you would fight it out. You wouldn't like
Mm.
surrender in that sense, right?
No.
No. No.
But then the fight is also against yourself.
How do you
That's
do
something you
the
need to
internal
realize.
internal boundary setting? How do you resonate with that? Because it was new to you when I explained it.
Yeah, I find that one still pretty difficult, to be honest. To really yeah, first of all, to like distinct between those voices, what is really you and what is a voice in your head. I find that sometimes it creeps in, sounding like me, but it is a voice.
What do you mean it creeps in?
Yeah, sometimes it creeps in and pretends it's me thinking that, but it is a voice in my head telling me something. I should be working harder or whatever. Should do more sports, should move more, should do this and that. Be a better girlfriend and cook more food. Whatever it is. I find it sometimes really difficult to find that voice and be like, this is a voice in my head, especially when you look into my whole journey around eating disorder and a voice telling me that I don't move enough, I eat too much, I'm a lazy
That's a
ass.
big journey of boundary
That
setting.
is a big journey that you have been driven by. So
Mm.
it's not that you have been steering those voices. No, no, no. They
Mm.
have been ruling your life.
Mm.
So to come from that place, and I have bad days. I wake up, I look in the mirror, and I'm like, yeah, could use some running again in your life. You could
Well,
use some workout. But then yeah, I'm also, like I think sometimes you need to step back and be like, hey, if you look at yourself and look how much healthier you are and how much you're able to function really as a
mm.
human being, um and how I am enjoying food and life, it's also something that in a bigger sense, it's just something I don't want to give away or give up anymore, like, so that also makes it a bit easier to silence those voices,
Mm.
because they are very temporary, they are very in the moment. But if you look at it
You
at
feel
a
like
bigger
it's
sense,
silencing them? Is it like telling them to hear not
tell
further?
them to grab their hot chocolate, sit back in the bus and shut the fuck up for a bit. Yeah.
Mm.
And if they come back because they want to have another one, well, let's talk about it. I don't know.
Have a nice cup of shut the fuck up.
Yeah, seriously, I think sometimes you really need
Nice.
to be very rude with it. And also, like, yeah, if I would listen to those voices telling me that I'm not fitting my jeans that I was fitting 3 years ago,
Mm.
then I'm like, yeah, you know what I do? I throw the jeans out because I'm just done with that shit.
Mm.
And that's not always easy. There are good days where I'm like, yeah, but I'm rocking other jeans. And there are days where I look at my legs and I'm like, yeah, well, good luck. This is really great. This is a really great body. And then I'm also like, yeah, hey,
But
like,
but
I
but
don't want to come into a place of comparing myself to other people, because I find that also is very unhealthy to like put yourself above someone else and be like, oh, look at that one, she's super chop. No, that's not a good place to be at. So it's more like, yeah, silencing those voices in a sense,
no.
not comforting them.
No, but
I
this
don't
is
feel
your
they need
boundaries. If
comfort.
somebody's spraying negativity in your surrounding,
Yeah.
you will either tell them to shut up or you will relocate, put on your noise canceling headphones.
Yeah, or you'll be like, you're
So,
not a good influence to be around.
yeah, leave me be. Take your venom elsewhere.
Exactly.
And
So
that's a
those voices do the same.
perfect example that, like, just as much as you can do about your external world, there's work on your internal experience as well. Like, if there is a voice in you telling you all the time you're not enough, at some point you also need to get angry and be like, hey,
Yep.
I had it with you. I know I'm enough. Plenty of people I know tell me I'm enough.
No one told me I'm not enough.
Yeah, so you pack your business, go elsewhere. Don't bother me no more. You're
Yeah.
not welcome here. This is such an important part of how you deal with your personal growth and how you
Mm.
manage your energy. Because these negative voices, these
Oh,
negative people, they're 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 the ones that suck the life out of you.
they drain you so much.
They keep you in bed, they depress you, they
They
make
just make
you not
anything
go to
not
parties.
enjoyable.
Yeah, all these
Yeah.
things. While it takes a little courage, some bravery in a moment to step up to the plate and be like,
Yeah.
but that moment is such a big breakthrough. You'll
Game changer.
celebrate the rest of your life. How long you put up with something that's negative for you.
Mm-hmm.
Putting up with something is not respecting your boundaries.
Mm-mm.
Not putting up with bullshit is you respecting your boundaries. So
Yeah.
if you have zero tolerance for nonsense in your life, you're doing a pretty good job
Mm-hmm.
at like, and whatever you consider nonsense. We're not talking about like because something is childish, it's nonsense. No, you can have plenty of fun, but you don't want negativity, no belittling, no bullying, none of that in your
Mm-hmm.
surrounding. Then amen to you. Like
Yeah.
I cannot stand gossiping. If I am around people who gossip about people, I just tell them, hey,
Yeah.
you want me to walk over and bring them back, or you guys want to walk over there and talk about these people? Because I will not participate in
Mm-hmm.
gossiping.
Yeah.
And this, whenever this occurs, I'm so more enraged by listening to gossiping
Mm-hmm.
than just being angry about people doing and telling it them and then be like, okay, change the topic.
Mm-hmm.
We've been talking about nice things all evening. Now two people get up, we can't do the same thing anymore. So these are moments that I feel like I could sit at that table and listen to the gossiping and get angry and be like, oh, what are these people? Who are they? What is
Mm-hmm.
this? Or I'm just very clear about my boundaries. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, as long as I'm here, y'all can take your boundary picnic somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, but also to speak, like for me, every time I experience someone speaking up for their boundaries,
Mm.
maybe it was rude or not the right tone or whatever, but my respect for that person grew. So in
Mm.
that example, also if you tell someone, hey, if you gossip, then just tell it that person, but don't. It also like it might mean if you leave the table, they would gossip about
I
you.
don't care
Doesn't
about that
matter. But
part.
if
Yeah.
you say that, it also like makes your respect more for
Mm.
people to be like, okay, he hates it. So also like
I,
towards you, it doesn't make any
I think
sense.
what you say about getting respect for people who communicate their boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
you yourself, whenever you communicate your boundaries, should grow a little bag of respect
Mm-hmm.
extra also for yourself. You shouldn't
Yeah.
feel bad about
No, not at all.
upsetting people or like not doing what people wanted or not being a good girlfriend
Yeah.
if you don't cook. No, you're just saying your boundaries. I don't feel like cooking today.
Yeah. Hey, and if you like hit the wrong tone saying it, you can apologize for the tone, but not for the thing
Yeah,
you
yeah.
said. You know,
The message is
the message
honest.
is the message
The
exactly.
message is
And okay,
honest.
maybe you been barking it over because you just hit the wrong
Yeah, you
tone, could
started too
be,
late.
or you've been
Whatever.
tired or whatever.
We're
But
humans.
the message itself is the message you wanted to bring across, and I find that really important.
It's powerful.
Yeah, and also like just think about how does it make you feel if you don't do it and you do something half-assed. It drains so much energy out of you. Like I mean, the example of cooking is just the one that we have right now. Don't have a better one, but really, like if I didn't feel like cooking, and then I'm like, let me just make something. These are the days where you're like, you know what? Sorry, the food I don't like. You know, so
Hey,
it doesn't create
yeah,
anything
when I do
good.
something without feeling like it, against my vibe, it's not gonna come
It's
out
really
right.
meh. It's just meh.
Oh.
That's what it is. And I find that also, that observation, the more I see those patterns, I'm like, it doesn't, it like makes me feel so drained afterwards and it doesn't create any good result.
No.
It's just something super annoying.
But
No
it's
one's happy
also
with
you
that.
not saying what your wishes are. You know, when you put up with something,
Mm-hmm.
when you don't communicate your own boundaries is one thing, but also suffocating your own voice to say what
Mm.
you like,
Mhm.
to
Yup.
communicate your wishes. In life, for the things that you're looking for to happen, for the dreams you have to come true, you need to voice them. People need to know about it. Like
Mhm.
if you
Mm.
would become very
Love
happy
that.
with a yellow ball and I have a yellow ball, I need to know that. If I don't know you care about a yellow ball, it's just sitting in my closet.
Mhm.
If I know you've been looking for a yellow ball all this week, I'm like, here, man, I have one. Take it.
Mhm. Yeah, you also like don't underestimate how much power is in you saying what you need
Mm,
and really drawing your boundaries. That is gonna also create so much more of what you need.
for sure.
That is really, really powerful.
For sure.
Like it's not only you hearing it inside of your head, but really people hearing it. It's like
Mm,
for me, it's the strongest form of setting intentions to speak out
amen.
what your boundaries are. Really,
Amen.
you can write them down and you can burn what you're not, and etc. etc. But to speak out those things
Mm,
has a whole different dimension. Like even hearing your voice, I believe that, like sometimes, like I
mm,
have one moment where I had a manager back then and he would scream in one meeting. Well, he was screaming every meeting, but I had one meeting and he started screaming all the time, and it was like the biggest disaster ever. I left home that day, didn't come back, and the next day I collected my three pieces of myself that were just shattered. I wrote a piece of paper of what I wanted to say. I went to the meeting. He was super surprised, and I was like, "Listen, a couple of things that I really need to tell you."
mm,
And I was like, first of all, you're the like biggest asshole of a manager I ever had in my life,
mm,
point blank." And that's how it went on. Jeez, I went out of this meeting literally 5 centimeters taller.
mm.
I was so fucking. I didn't know if I would lose my job, but I didn't care.
No.
I cared to set down my boundaries and be like, don't you ever dare to
Mm.
treat me like that in front of other people, period.
Yeah.
And I find that really, really important. Like you can swallow and swallow because you pick your battles, and sometimes you're like, oh, it's not really worth it. But there are moments in life where you need to put your foot down and speak it out. That's so strong. You're gonna really like that day. I really impressed myself. Went out and I was like, okay,
You're
that
cool.
was bold.
Mm.
You showed bolts in that one. Yeah. But it's important. I find like those things you will remember.
It's the moments that you rise, the moment that you step up to the plate, the moment that you don't silence yourself.
Yeah.
Speak
Getting
your
some
truth.
hearts there.
Getting plenty
See,
of
oh,
love.
there's
Getting
so
plenty
much
of love. Yeah.
cuddle.
Cuddle and kisses. That's what girls want.
That's
All
what I'm
jokes
learning.
aside, I gotta communicate my boundaries. I'm running low on fuel. I think we had a great episode
I
today
think so too. Thank
about
you for
boundaries.
sharing.
If you didn't know, managers, Kay doesn't give a F. She will come to your meeting, tell you to shut the hell up, have a cup of shut the fuck up.
Sit back in the bus.
Yeah,
Take a hot chocolate if I'm
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I tell you sometimes too.
For sure, for sure. I don't listen. It's okay.
That's a
It's
different
my
side of the
my
coin.
boundary is my hearing. If you have the feeling that life's happening to you internally, externally, drop them boundaries. Like listen to your intuition.
Speak it out. Think
No,
about what you really
notice
want.
notice the resistance that you're going through if you're putting up with stuff that you're not supposed to put up with.
Because if you're really honest, you're gonna feel and sense that very, very quickly.
No doubt about it.
And going in the right direction is just gonna drain you.
Yeah, boundaries are a great way to love change because you're gonna deal with stuff that you didn't ask for. Things are changing all the time, around the clock. We love it. We're here to share more about it. If you like this episode, drop a like. Make sure you share it, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next Tuesday.
Love change. Out.
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 Out.